Hey, is this thing on? Hello? Hit it again. I think it's on now. Welcome to Hiker Trash Radio, where each week, Doc will drag some colorful characters out of the woods to talk trail and Type 2 fun. If you're aspiring hiker trash, or if you're just looking to understand the hiker trash in your life, look no further. So lace up those boots, gnaw on some jerky, and settle into your 20-mile pace as we fire up the podcast from somewhere deep in the backcountry. It's time to embrace the suck.
Welcome back to another week on the trail, dirtbags, hiker trash, and of course, good smelling day hikers. I'm Doc, and this is Hiker Trash Radio. Hey, if you like what we're doing here, take just a minute, help us out, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. And if you don't like what we're doing, just go ahead and keep that to yourself. All right, let's get to this week's guest, a section hiker turned through hiker we spoke to a couple of seasons ago before he took on the PCT. Welcome back to Hiker Trash Radio, James Magnet Parsons. How's it going, Magnet?
Good, Doc. I'm doing well. I'm living the dream, man.
Yeah, yours was a real interesting case for me because we talked before you left on your trip to do the PCT, and then I met you out at Agua Dulce. We met up at a little Mexican restaurant there with you and your family. I had some dinner with you, had some good conversation, actually recorded some stuff that I think I added to that particular episode as like bonus footage, talking to your buddies, and that was a lot of fun.
Dude, that was a lot of fun. Yeah, thanks for coming out and meeting us, too. That was like a nice personal touch.
Yeah, it was my pleasure. My pleasure.
But yeah, you told me then I was the first section hiker you ever had on the pod, and I still don't know if you have had another section hiker on the pod. But I'm happy to say I'm not a section hiker anymore. I'm a through hiker. That's cool.
Yeah.
When I met you, I was only like 400 miles in, and there's quite a bit of doubt there at the time. And but yeah, most all that my family finished and I finished, and it was a tough year because not that many people finished, got to the actual terminus. I don't know if you followed like that. It was all fires, but like NorCal broke out in fires, Southern Oregon broke out, and like Northern Washington at the terminus was closed. So we just threaded the needle, man. We did everything right, pretty accidentally. It was just good fortune, but we were just always at the right place at the right times. Like the fires were behind us, we were just crushing it. If we had been a week later or whatever, it would have all fell apart. But it's just, we were just counting our blessings, so we made it.
Yeah. It's all about timing. And we're going to get into that trip a little bit later in the episode here. I want to hear all the fine details after our dinner and how the trip progressed and how you threaded that needle. So we'll get back to that in just a little bit. But let's talk about your trail name. How did you end up with the trail name Magnet?
In 2019, my wife and I were section hiking the Oregon PCT. So like I started as a section hiker, but I was like pretty humble as far as I wasn't trying. 50 miles was a big deal to me in 2019. So we were like, oh, let's do section hike all of Oregon together because we live in Oregon. So that was a good place to start. And so we started together. She ended up just not wanting to do it anymore pretty quickly, actually, which I don't blame her. But she named me that. She gave me that name because we were hiking with our two dogs, Australian Shepherds. And so I would lead, and then they would be tucked one on each one of my legs, stuck to my legs. And she'd be behind. So she was watching that all day. And so that's how she named me that. But it was really annoying because my dogs had the saddlebag things on them. So every time my leg would go back, it would hit the saddlebag. So I hated it, but she thought it was funny. So that's how I got the name.
Now, Magnet, when you started with that story, I thought you were going to tell me that your wife gave you the name Magnet because she was so attracted to you.
No, I don't think she's attracted to me at all. Yeah. No, that would be cool. Yeah. Sometimes I think people are thinking that. They go, oh, does this guy think he's attractive or something? And I was like, no, nothing to do with that. I'm just like, yeah, I'm a dog magnet, which I still am. So I got that going for me, dog.
Nice. Now you started out section hiking with your wife, and that you said that ended pretty quickly, and she no longer section hikes. I was gonna ask you, what was her reaction to you doing the full through hike? Was she supportive? Does she want to get back into it now, seeing what you've gone through and hearing your stories? How did that all play out?
Yeah, she's supportive of it, but she doesn't really like it, which is, I guess, it's a good thing. You know what I mean? That's a nice balance. She's like, if it makes you happy, I'm supportive of it, but like it comes at a cost for sure. She gives me like free reign to go do that stuff, but I got to be smart enough to know there's a limit, whether it's spoken or not. We can maybe get into that a little bit about my future plans, but it's cool. It's cool to do it once in a while, and she's supportive of it. But I hear things as I came home, like through the winter, like things would slip out that she was like mad about or was thinking. And I knew that she was, but it's like, yeah, so she's cool on the surface, but when you really get a couple beers in, you'll hear some things like that she was resentful about or that pissed her off or something. I don't blame her. It comes at a cost.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we are all fortunate, those of us who are involved in various pursuits, whether it's through hiking the PCT or if it's doing a podcast, we're all fortunate to have supportive partners who listen to our endeavors and understand us and understand our need to do that. But I think you hit it right on the head. It is so important to hear what's spoken, what's said, right, but it's also equally important, maybe more important, to understand and hear what is unspoken.
Yeah, man, that's a really good way of putting it. It's, yeah, there's the official narrative, and then there's the kind of behind the scenes narrative that you have to like piece together. Okay, so now I know how she really feels, which is good to know. It's cool that I have the freedom, but there is a responsibility in that freedom to not push it. I guess that's how I look at it. But yeah, she's super supportive, and I'm still hiking like almost all the time. Anyway, but this year I'm doing a little different. I'm not going to put her through that, like another full through hike. So I've hiked, I don't know, something like 12 or 1,300 miles this year. I'm doing shorter stuff. So as I go away and I come home, so I can mow the lawn when it's 2 feet high. I can take care of the dogs for a little bit, catch up on some stuff around the house, get everything set, and then take off again. So I feel a lot better about that. Like, at least I'm around. Like, shouldn't forget about me.
Yeah, the trick is to come back before she calls the locksmith. If you can time that, just your key will still work on the door.
Yeah, just make amends real quick, get everything back in order, make her like me again, and then I'll take off again.
Yeah. Now, the last time you were on, this was a different podcast in terms of the naming and some of the segments. What do you think of the rebrand?
I think it's cool, man. I don't know. How come you changed it? I like the other one too, but I understand that there's a little more universal appeal with the new name.
That's exactly it. I thought maybe the old one was a little bit too niche, and this might have more a broader appeal and access to folks. So
that's cool, man. I ran into the same problem with my photography. I started that page Extreme Oregon when that's all I was really doing is Oregon, because I had a full-time job and I really couldn't travel. And then I started doing the PCT, so what I did stupidly, now I got 2 Instagram pages. So it'd be like you starting a second podcast that was different than the first podcast and trying to keep them both going. So you're smart to do it officially and rip the Band-Aid off, because I can't figure out what the hell to do. I got all these different identities.
I don't know if I'm smarter. I'm simpler. I can't handle too much going on, so I try and simplify my life as much as possible.
Oh, that's good, man. Running 2 podcasts would suck.
Yeah, you got that right. All right. But since the last time you've been on, we've rebranded. We've also renamed some of our segments. So I know you're familiar with kind of the flow of the episode. What used to be the pro tip insight of the week, it is now the hiking hack of the week. And so we still have that concept going. We're towards the end of the episode. I'm going to ask you to share some trail wisdom with our listeners to make their next outdoor experience even better. So I know you've got something in store. Don't let it go too early.
Okay, man. I got 6 things in the queue. So if I spill a couple before, I still got other ones.
Perfect. I love someone who's prepared. You know it.
Man, all the time on the trail, what else am I going to do? I'll think about the pod coming up or whatever. I got hours. I got days. Don't you worry about me.
Now, I know you're a faithful listener. Do you have any favorite recent episodes or guests that I've had on?
Yeah. Tesla. I like Nicola was cool. Let's see who else. I enjoyed a lot of them. I can't remember. Oh, I just know her Instagram name, Kate the Wild. I followed her. Just her photography is awesome. And I have something in common with her as far as through hiking and photography, like both, the love of both of those things. She had that. So that was cool to get her perspective on stuff. I got your pods like auto download on my phone. So I have all of them. And so I have no cell reception a lot of my life. And so they're auto playing and I fall asleep to them, and I probably listen to them in my sleep. So I probably have absorbed things in my sleep that I'm not consciously aware of through your pod.
I'm not sure how I feel about you falling asleep to my voice. That makes me a little uncomfortable.
You know, man, it's nothing like that. It's just, you're like an icon to me a little bit. I hear Doc's voice and I know the world is right. So that's.
Nice. That is probably one of the coolest things I've heard. Thanks, Megan. I really appreciate that.
Sure, man.
Trailblazers Toolkit.
All right. Another segment you're probably familiar with is the Trailblazers Toolkit, sponsored by the ultralight backpacking gear company 6 Moon Designs. Do you have any 6 Moon Designs gear?
I do not, sir. I should, but I don't.
Okay, that's all right. I'm not going to hold that against you.
Okay.
I'd love to talk about gear on the podcast. Love to hear about the most important item in my guest's adventure gear. And so if you were preparing for your next adventure and I was the one providing you with all your gear, what is the one specific piece of gear you would insist on being packed? Make sure to give me all the specifics on that piece of gear and tell me why you got to have it out there. And this can be any type of item. It could be gear, it could be apparel, it could be a luxury item. Magnet, what is that item in your toolkit?
Man, it'll be the same time as you asked me, or same thing that you asked me, same answer that I, from when you asked me last time. I said that pretty bad, but my Sony a6500 camera.
That's right.
As a photographer, that thing is always with me, and it is beat to heck, and it's on its last legs now, but I would insist that be included in my pack. It's been like 5,000 miles on my shoulder strap, that particular camera and lens, and it is completely destroyed. On the Arizona Trail, I actually threw it. I was standing on top of a big rock. I don't know, like it was like 9 or 10 feet down to the floor, taking a picture, and I started to lose my balance. And I had it securely in my hand, but I instinctively, I knew I needed my hand in that moment. So I threw the camera to sacrifice it because I didn't want to fall. So it fell like 9 feet onto rock, and I went down and it wouldn't focus. And then I turned it off, restarted it, just like all electronic equipment usually.
That's right. Reboot.
And it was fine. It was fine. So the barrel's all dented to hell. Like the back screen is peeled. I can barely see through it. A lot of the buttons are like don't work, or they're faded. I can't tell what they do, but it still takes awesome photographs. So it still works as what I needed to do.
Yeah, it feels like a year and a half, maybe 2 years since you and I spoke last time. And
year and a half.
You still have the same camera equipment.
Oh yeah, man.
Now, what do you say? I've seen headlines that say that cameras like that are a dying breed with the improvements to the phones on the latest cell phones, that those things are a thing of the past. What do you think about that?
I do not agree, sir. And I have a nice cell phone. I have iPhone 12 Pro Max, which is like the high-end one with the camera, right? The bigger sensor and stuff. And it's great for social media and texting photos to your friends. And I do use it for my social medias. When I'm on trail, I post stuff off of it and stuff, and it's great. But there is no comparison. Like I'm sitting at home on my 5K ProRes or whatever Mac that's 5K resolution. So I'm able to look at the photos from both like enormous on the 27-inch screen 5K. And there is a huge difference in the quality of the image, like in the artifacting and the noise and the details and all the range of colors and the sharpness and the shadow detail, the highlight detail. There's no comparison. I think cell phones have done great for what they're intended, and that's just to take photos for Instagram, Facebook, and text. That's great, and they're excelling at that. But when you try to start like really pushing them and really come up with like beautiful pieces of like large art, they just fall on their face. And they're not intended to do that. They're not there. They're great for what they are, but I don't think they'll ever replace DSLRs.
Okay. And speaking of looking at things on your computer, if you're listening to this podcast and not watching it on YouTube on your computer, you should maybe hit the pause button and tune in to YouTube and see this fierce mustache that Magnet has going on there. He's got the wax out and everything. It looks pretty good.
Thanks, but I started that on the PCT like right before I started hiking, and like it's just like a conversation piece, and like it made people smile. Like it still does make people smile when I see them. So I guess it's for that reason, like I like it. So.
Okay. Now, in addition to your camera, what other types of camera equipment do you have with you? Do you carry a tripod with you or a monopod, or how many lenses? Tell us about that.
So the main lens I carry on that is a Sony 18-105. Yeah, Sony 18-105 f4. And that's on there 90% of the time. And then I do usually carry a wider angle because 18 on a crop sensor is not super wide. So I carry a Sony 10-18 f4, which is only like 7 ounces. I keep that in my pack usually. So it's those two lenses, and I don't really carry a tripod like except on rare occasion anymore. It's just I can't afford the weight. Or I guess I could, but I've gone like super ultra light, so I don't do it anymore.
Okay, so how much in camera how much weight in camera equipment are you carrying?
Okay, so the last time we talked, it was like 6 pounds, but that was with a tripod. So now I'm down to 3.5 to 4. That's probably where I'm at now.
Wow. Okay. And
Yeah.
what is your overall base weight? Not counting food and water, but including your camera equipment.
Including the camera. So I just did my base weight on the pack without the camera, but with everything else. So that was like at my lightest, man, 8.5 pounds.
Wow.
I just got a new pack that's only a 36 liter. So I'm really trying to push myself to get like smaller and lighter. But so with the camera, it'd be 13 or so. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess if you want to push yourself to be ultralight, one strategy is to don't carry a 55-liter backpack. Get a 36, and that kind of forces your hand. You got to really make some hard decisions about what to bring and what.
Yeah. I needed that. I did that tall rim trail this year, and I carried way too much stuff. Like it was just ridiculous. You would think with more experience, I would get lighter, but I swear I was going the opposite direction. I was like getting heavier. I'm like, this is insane. It felt so uncomfortable, so awful on my back. What am I doing? And so I ordered a 36 pack. And so on this last backpack trip I did, it wasn't very long. Like it's exactly what it did, man. There's only so much room. So it's like only the really key things can go. And it was awesome. Like it revolutionized my like mentality towards through hiking. And yeah, you just have to make those hard calls, which I always didn't want to do. I was always like, no, I want a foam pad and an air mattress in case the air mattress fails. I need a backup. But this time I'm like, nope, just a foam pad. I know I can do it. And it was great. It was fantastic.
Now, Magnet, they say that you pack your fears. And so if you're packing way too much, what did that reveal about yourself? What kinds of items were you packing, and what kinds of fears did those address?
Some of it's obviously the photo gear is not everyone's stupid enough to do that. There's that side of it. But I think also maybe, I don't know, I just thought I was a strong person. I thought I could handle it, and I could. And I don't need to be. I used to see those guys that are like super ultra light, and I'm like, that's ridiculous, man. You got to enjoy a little bit of the experience and have enough layers to be warm. You want to be comfortable when you sleep. Sleep's important. I had all those excuses, and they're not excuses. It's reality. But that was it. It was like, I felt I don't need to be ultra light. I don't need to be super ultra light. I just need to be somewhere in the middle. And I was cool with that. But that Tahoe rim trail really set me straight, man. I realized like how much pain I was in on my shoulders and stuff, and like how much it was slowing me down, especially in the snow, and how much more I was post holing all that weight. I'm like, that's it, man. I'm done with it. Yeah, being ultra light or getting a lot lighter has just been such a dream. I guess I can do a lot more miles with a lot less fatigue and a lot faster. I'm freaking flying out there now, and it's just the weight on my back. This is like a second time I've gone through this revolution. When I first started section hiking, I had an 75 liter pack. I brought everything, right? So I went through that revolution in 2020 and 2021 to cut that weight in half. And now I'm going through a second revolution and cutting that half weight in half again. So,
yeah, I'm not sure who needs to hear this, but I know there are people listening who do. Just because you can carry 40 pounds on your back for extended periods of time doesn't mean you should carry 40 pounds of weight on your back.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like I was good at carrying 40 pounds. That's a little extreme. I'm really good at carrying 30 pounds on my back. Like I can have a pretty big pack with a lot of extra shit, and I can still keep up with everyone. But I don't know. Maybe it came at a little bit of a price, like to my enjoyment of the experience. Like I know your pod, so I know you're going to ask me about in the poll weight or luxury items, and I got a good answer for you on that. I won't spoil it.
Oh, you know what, Magnet? I'm changing things up on you. You're right about what we're going to talk about next.
It's the hiking poll.
But I don't know if you've heard some of my most recent episodes where I've got a third set of questions. These set of questions are related to hiking, but they're not the same. So I use these on my repeat guests to make sure we keep things interesting and not stagnant.
All right.
All right. So I'm shifting things up on you. I'm going to catch you a little flat-footed here. And
no, you won't.
Okay. All right. These are 7 questions related to hiking. Sometimes you're used to me asking a question and giving you some choices. Some of these questions are open-ended. And
okay.
So I want to get into your mind and hear what you have to say about some of these things. This also allows me to give you a score, as you know, on the sanity scale from 1 to 100.
Mm-hmm.
And anybody who has hiked a long trail, like the PCT, it's an automatic 25-point deduction. So your highest possible score tonight is 75.
Okay. And I know I'm not hitting that. Okay. Let's
continue. All right. 7 questions. First question. Here we go. When you're out there and you're amongst your tramily, what are the top 3 topics of conversation on the trail? What are you guys talking about out there?
Food, Various ailments such as sores, rashes, and blisters, and sore backs and stuff, knees, and people, other hikers that we either don't like. So it's either trash talking or talking people up, one of the, depending on who it is.
Would that be hiker trash talking?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, that's a good one.
All right. Question number 2. What is the best trail name you've encountered out there?
All right. I'm biased, but it was a trail name I gave someone, and maybe I think highly of myself. But this was when I was still a section hiker, and I was doing the desert section down by you. And we got to the top of that huge climb into the San Gabriels. It takes all day or whatever before Wrightwood. And this guy had this fire going up at the top of the thing. And so we got up there super beat, and he had this fire going, and he just maintained it all night. And we all sat around and just had this really good time. And so I named him Fuego, like the Spanish word for fire. And I was like, thought that was a cool name. I wish someone would name me Fuego, because I would love to have that trail name.
Fuego. What is magnet in Spanish?
I don't know. Hold on. You can keep talking. I have a little translator.
Yeah, there's an app for that. There you go. So as you are looking that up, I will speak very slowly about the next question.
Okay.
Do you have it?
It's loading. Hold on. I guess I didn't refresh my app.
All right. Question number 3, toilet paper, bidet, leaves, or snow, or something else?
Toilet paper.
Toilet paper all the way.
Yeah, all the way. So I talked about getting ultralight, but I'm still not ready to give up toilet paper yet.
All right.
But I use it for more than just wiping butts. I clean my jet oil with it. I use it to, like, I've had to use it to dry my phone screen in the rain. Your phone screen won't work when it's wet. So I've lost on the trail, and I'm like, holy crap, what am I going to do? All my clothes are soaked. Toilet paper, because I keep it in a Ziploc. That's like sometimes my only dry piece of cloth that I can come up with. Multi-use
products are so important out on the trail.
Yeah, you got it, man.
Yeah. Now, do you pack it out?
No. Bury
it.
I know.
That's a big new thing now. I mean, packing it out.
I'm not there yet either, man. I know the PCTA says to do that. I've been on like raft trips where they do that. They have to do that by law, like to pack it out and stuff. But they're also paid professionals that get paid to do that. I looked it up. Toilet paper is completely biodegradable, and so is poop. I can't see, if you bury it good, in a good spot, no one will ever know it's there. It'll never be an issue. Humans and animals have been doing it for a long time. I guess I don't see. If someone could convince me that it really makes a difference, I would.
Yeah, I think it's become pack it out because people did not do a good job of digging their holes and burying it. And so
but those people aren't going to pack it out, though.
Yeah, that's a lot. There's a lot of toilet paper flowers out there because of that. I
know. During COVID, oh my God. You probably heard a lot of those stories, but I was still out there hiking, at least sections at that time. And everyone from the cities came out because they were like, there was nothing to do. Everything was shut down, and they were afraid to get COVID in the city. Mm-hmm. All these noobs are out just everywhere, man. And they were making toilets on the side of the PCT, just like making like a bathroom area. Like they just poop all in this open area, just to leave it. And I think that they thought that was cool, as long as it's off to the side. Like there was just stuff going on. Like I couldn't believe it. But it's not the thru hikers, though. Maybe I know I sound biased, but it's not us.
Yeah.
It's not generally like the experienced backpackers that are doing that stuff. If you get away from the roads and the day hiker crowd, it's clean. Like I can't say never, but I rarely see like unexposed poop out there.
Yeah. Now, for our listeners out there who are considering packing it out, one of my tricks is I take a gallon Ziploc bag and I coat it on both sides with duct tape. Okay. So my toilet paper bag, I can't see what's inside of it. And it just makes me feel better with it having that in my pack. And when I pull it out to go take care of business, I'm not confronted with my past wipes.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Did we find magnet in Spanish yet?
Yeah, Iman. So I had never heard that before. I'm fluent in Spanish, but
how do you spell it?
IMAN.
Wow. Okay.
Where did it go? Yeah.
I think it also means like wise man in some other language.
Does it?
I think so. I think there's some Middle Eastern language that has a title of Iman.
So, yeah. I guess that's mainly what it means, like the actual magnet. But when you use it in a sentence like he's he is the magnet of attention. It's el centro de atención.
Mhm.
He's the center of attention, but it's in the form of an actual magnet, like that we're thinking of. It's not.
Got it. Got it. All right. Question number 4. Breakfast in camp, on trail, or no breakfast?
Trail. Yeah. So I drink coffee in the morning. Yeah, your question, you are throwing me in for a loop on this one, man. This is nothing that I prepared for, but this is cool because no one really cares to hear this stuff except you, Doc. My wife doesn't want to hear about it. My dogs are tired of hearing about it. I eat on the trail because I usually don't want to take the time to eat at camp. So I drink coffee. My 20-30 minutes of me time in the morning is me drinking coffee. And so then there's no time to eat food, really. So I just throw some bars in my fanny pack or whatever, and I eat that as I go.
Yeah, efficiency. I think that's a good rule of thumb, being efficient out there, breaking camp and doing what you need to do, getting on the trail, eating on trail, and making those miles.
Yeah, man, I think so. But I do like to stop like for lunch if you care to hear that. But yeah, otherwise I just snack as I go, man.
Yeah, and you mentioned you've hit your pace out there. How many miles are you doing a day average?
When I was on the PCT, it was getting like close to 30, 28-ish to 32 sometimes. But one of the drawbacks of me doing like these shorter trails now is I don't get the trail legs like to the extent that I did. But now like a 25 is a pretty big day. So I would say I'm somewhere between 17 and 22 or 3 now on most of my stuff.
Yeah, when you get those trail legs after miles and you can just eat up the miles each day.
Yeah, man. It's the trail legs and then also the habits that make you excel at that. Like the getting up early, and you're so efficient with the placement of all your stuff and your rituals, and everything's dialed to this one purpose. And this year I haven't been as focused, but in a way it's awesome. I'm doing all the things that when I was on the Thru hike, I wished I could do. I wish I could stop and go visit that lake. I wish I could just hang out at this town and take a second zero. But you're like, well, you have this incredible focus on this one singular goal. Whereas this year, I'm like, I'm just going to keep walking. I'll finish the trail, but I'm not going to kill myself. I want to take time for me and for photography and for relaxing and I hiked with my dog a lot on the Tuttle Rim Trail and Timberline Trail. And so I'm like, I want to make sure that he's having a good time. So I've shifted gears a little bit this year. It's just more about the experience and less about miles.
I can really appreciate that, Magnet. I've got a couple of buddies that I hike with, Chopper and Buddy. And last year I took us on the High Sierra Trail, and this year it was Chopper's turn to plan a trip, and we shifted gears. We did exactly what you said. It was not this drop off at one point and we've got to get over to this point by this date to get picked up. We really felt the pressure to just keep on going, making the miles and hitting our checkpoints. This was out and back in Desolation Wilderness. We drove up there and we started at Echo Lake and we just explored and decided, okay, this is where we're going to stay, and took our time and really enjoyed the sights, set up a camp and did some day hikes from there and set up another camp somewhere else the next night. And it was a refreshing change from the way we used to do things. So I think changing things up gives you a new appreciation.
Yeah, it's all the things like last year on that Thru hike that I couldn't do. And in fact, I'm revisiting some of the places that I like buzzed through on my Thru hike that I wish I could see. It's like in the off season, I had so much downtime. I was looking at maps and I would see all these things that I missed that I didn't see on the PCT that were like within 1 to 2 miles from the trail. All these little pocket lakes and waterfalls. And I'm like, I had no idea that was there. Like that's one of the downsides about just buzzing through these areas. And a lot of these areas, I'm fortunate to live on the West Coast. I can go back, but a lot of people can't. So they just fly through on this highway. In a way, it's like looking at things through your car window. You just seeing what's along the side of the trail, and that's it. But the PCT is more of a corridor than it is. They call it a scenic trail, but it really is more of a corridor that gets you into these areas in an efficient way. But it isn't necessarily the sites. So I love that this year I'm like returning and getting to revisit some of these things and see them in a different way and not rushed. And as a photographer, I get to like actually see them with good light and stuff like that. So it's a good life, man.
Absolutely.
It's a good life that I can do both of those things.
All right. Question 5, solo hiking or tramley?
Tramley, most definitely. Although that's funny. Every year is different. This year, I'm like getting a little bit more into hiking by myself, just out of necessity, because there isn't really such thing as a tramley like on the Wonderland Trail or the Tuttle Rim Trail. So I'm starting to like it a little bit. I don't know. There's like drama in the Tramleys and stuff. And then I hope they're not listening to me. I love those people to death. I love my PCT Tramley to death and my Arizona Trail family. We're all still really close friends, but there is something to not having to be on someone else's schedule, not listening to other people's like drama, or they want to do this and they're not going to listen to what anyone else says, that type of thing. Just cruising at your own pace and doing your own thing, being in my own head is cool. But I'm sure after a year of that, I'll be like, I want to Tramley again, you know?
Yeah, I think definitely there's some balance. And even if you're hiking with good friends, there are times where I'll intentionally fall behind, or I'll intentionally go ahead and just do my own thing for a while, because I think there is some value in being alone up inside your head and experiencing it all by yourself.
Yeah, definitely, man. I know that, and people get nerves get like pretty wound up on through hikes. I think there's a lot of tension. You feel like there's a tremendous time crunch, and people get emotional and they get hurt easily. Oh, so and so didn't wait up for me, and now they're all pissed off, and everyone can just sense it, that they're just super pissed. And there's I don't know, and now we're all friends again, but it's like there's this built-in like inherent tension. It's like we all like to watch those shows about The Amazing Race and stuff. It's an older show, but we like the drama of it. Like it also gets your nerves like on edge, and you can snap at little stuff when you're under this like time constraint. You don't feel good, and you're hungry, and you're tired.
Oh yeah,
it's great for TV and for making vlogs and stuff. But in real life, sometimes you get tired of that.
Right. That's right.
Yeah.
Question number 6: rank the following in your order of preference: 1 mile severe uphill, 1 mile severe downhill, or a 20-mile road walk. Which do you prefer, and then what's second?
Probably a 20-mile road walk. Although I would be more sure of my answer if you said like a 10-mile road walk. But because a 1 mile uphill does suck really bad, but it's only 1 mile and it'll be over in 20, 30, 40 minutes. The road walk's like most of a day. But okay, I actually like road walking.
Really?
Yeah. Is that unusual?
That is. I think I've talked to some people who just absolutely cannot stand walking on the pavement.
No, I think it's cool. It's like one of the only times I can like walk and look around and enjoy the scenery. Like I can stare and watch at the birds and watch the sky and stuff, because otherwise you trip and fall on the trail. Like you can't do that.
That's right. You got to pay attention to the footfalls.
Yeah. So I no longer have to do that. Also, depending on where you're walking, if a car comes by, and they might get a soda out of the deal or something, or maybe they'll give you a ride. We've gotten road magic before. Cars will stop and hand us stuff, and that's pretty cool. But I just like the grade. I like that I can like just dial it in and just cruise. Think about other things. I can
road magic.
Watch my feet. Yeah,
road magic. I've not heard that before, but that totally makes sense. Is that a common phrase out there?
No, I don't think so. But I used it because when we were in the desert, we got this car like drove. We did this little road walk to skip something, and a car drove by and like turned around. And he's like, "You guys hiking the PCT?" I said, "Yeah." He's like, "Here," and he gave us like some Arizona iced teas or something. And so I'm like, that was Big Marmot. I was with him, you met him.
Yeah.
At Acton. But yes, we got trail magic. I'm like, no, dude, we got road magic. If we hadn't hiked the road, we wouldn't have gotten that. So
okay. Last question in the poll. What's on your head out there? Ball cap, floppy hat, straw hat, sun hoodie, no hat, or something else?
Ball cap and a sun hoodie.
Yeah, usually. That makes sense. Yeah. Yep. I've seen that combo often.
Yeah, the brim for my face and then the hood for my ears and neck and stuff. Yeah.
All right. Hey, Magnet, stand by here. I got to do some math. I take my shoes off, use all 20 digits here. I got to carry the 2, it looks like. I've got to divide by root 5. We're going to multiply by pi. And I'm going to make a slight adjustment for the total circumference of your toilet paper roll. And I come up with a score of 43.
Okay, so I'm a little more insane than sane.
That's correct. That is the perfect way to interpret that.
Okay, man. So if you ever interview me again in 2 years, I bet you I'll be like a 33. As I keep getting stupider out there.
I don't know if it's stupider. You keep getting more hiker trash. That's what it is.
I guess I keep getting hiker trash. In some ways, I am getting stupider. In some ways, I'm making stupid mistakes that I didn't used to make, or getting complacent in my thinking I'm like so great I don't have to worry about certain things. But yeah, whatever you call it. But to the average consumer of hiking information, I'm getting crazier.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Yeah. And I like the way you put earlier that you underwent a revolution a couple of years ago, in how you approach hiking. And now you're going through a second revolution. It just points out that even experienced hikers with thousands of miles under their feet have the opportunity to learn and adjust and adapt.
Yeah, man. I know me, and that's the only way I stay interested in anything, photography included, is if I mastered it and I thought I knew everything about, I would stop doing that thing and go do something else. And that's what's happened in my life. Is like, if I get to the end of something where it's like, all right, I know everything I think I'm going to ever know about this thing, I'll find that I will stop doing that thing because it's no longer challenging. So it's great that hiking and backpacking is not done with me, that I still have, I am still a student of, in all these areas of, and in every single way, I'm still a student of the sports, if you want to call it that. I hope I never master all of it.
Now, the photography business, is that your full-time job these days? Is it paying the bills?
No, not really. It is my full-time job, but it's not amazing money. So before I did my thru hike last year, I had a good job that I walked away from, and I could have went back to that job, and I decided not to. My wife and I decided that I shouldn't do it because I'll just get discontent like I was before doing it. So there's no reason. So I'm doing okay with photography. I'm actually starting like a backpacker clothing company thing I'm working on right now, just homemade stuff that I'm doing myself. And I'm not killing it, Doc, but I am on the trail killing it. But my wife is really carrying us right now. So I don't have a lesson there for anybody that's wanting to live the hiker trash life and how to make it work. So I haven't really figured it out, but I'm just determined to do it anyway.
Good on you. Good on you. And what kinds of clothing items are you making?
I'm starting with a hoodie.
Okay.
I've just been nerding out on hoodies, fleece hoodies and technical hoodies, and just I bought all the sewing equipment, and I'm in my garage just nerding out like I love to do. So I just made prototypes, and I'm going to give them to my friends and to test them and recommend changes. And I'm just going to, do that. That's just something fun. It's really fun, actually.
Yeah. I've talked to a number of people who have done exactly what you're doing and have had their businesses take off.
Yeah. Like one of your sponsors, Jolly Gear, right?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
His stuff is all over the trails this year.
That's great. I got a free shirt, not from him, but I won that Pacific Crest Trail Association photo contest finally after competing in it for 10 years. And I got a really cool PCT shirt, but I don't think it was Jolly Gear, but it may have been Jolly Gear. Isn't there another one that's doing some fun stuff with different shirts for hikers and stuff? And I'm blanking on the name.
I'm not sure. The Jolly Gear does the Triple Crown button down, which has 4 or 5 different patterns that are really colorful, really cool looking.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, I got one that's all like Pacific Crest Trail themed. That was really cool.
Mm-hmm. All right. And remind us again before we go to break, how did you get involved in hiking and outdoor adventure? What called you to that pastime?
Yeah, I think photography was the gateway to it for me, because I got into that. I been a day hiker and car camper for a long time, but that's not probably, it really doesn't count. I got into backpacking because of photography. So once I started getting serious about photography, I realized that you can't just be a day hiker, really. And you have to be like at these beautiful scenic wilderness locations when the light's good. And that's in the evening and the morning. So I'm like, okay, I have to figure, I got to be there. I got to spend the night there. Okay, so I need backpacking equipment, and I got all that and figured this out. And then by doing so, the Pacific Crest Trail runs through my backyard. So I discovered it, and we're talking to thru hikers and stuff. But my initial reaction was, that's insane. That's completely insane. I'll never do something like that. Because I knew I could come in. You can come into all these beautiful places on side trails. You don't have to walk a continuous chain all the way. It seems stupid to me. But it got into my mind at that point. And so the more I started backpacking, I used to not even like to backpack. I just wanted to go take photos. That's all I wanted to do. But then I slowly started to like the backpacking side of it more and more. And pretty soon, and I met more and more thru hikers. And then I'm like, maybe we could do something like that. Maybe I'll just section hike Oregon. So my wife and I started that. And then pretty soon it'd be, no, I'm going to section hike the whole thing. And then it became, no, I'm going to thru the whole thing. And now I want to thru hike more things. So that it was like almost a 10-year process.
Mm-hmm. That is very cool. And as you were talking about, I think it's ridiculous because you could access through side trails, get to some of these places and still be amazed. But I think there is something to getting out into the middle of nowhere under no other power than your own 2 legs and seeing what a lot of people on this planet have not seen firsthand.
I agree with it now, 100%, man. I can tell there's cons, of course, too, but I used to just think of the cons. Now I know the pros as well. There's incredible pros to doing it, but initially it didn't make a lick of sense to me that why would you do that?
All right. Well said, sir. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to pay some bills, hear from the advertisers. And when we come back, we're going to hear about the rest of your PCT experience, as well as what you've been up to since then. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. And welcome back. We were talking to James Parsons, aka Magnet, or if you're speaking Spanish out there, Iman. Thank you for coming back on, buddy. And I know that you and I met in person when you were in the middle of the PCT, right before getting into the Sierras. So I'm curious to hear how the Sierras went. I love spending time in the Sierras, love hearing about the Sierras. And then also the finish to your trip sound like it was pretty dicey out there. So I want to hear about that as well. So how did the Sierras go for you?
Man, so I learned what type 2 fun meant. Before that, I never knew. I'd heard the term type 2 fun, but I honestly did not know what it was. But now I know what it is, and that's because of the Sierras. So we started in like May 1st or April 29th or something like that, somewhere right in there.
That's early. That's early.
So that's early for people that are listening, have done it or are thinking about doing it. That's early, but it worked out so sweet in the end. I'm all on board with going into the Sierras that early, at least on an average snow year. But we went in, and you think you got trail legs, and I thought I was conditioned because we'd done the whole desert and stuff, 700 miles. And I got smacked in the face by the Sierras pretty good, because now we're loaded up with a bear can. Now we got an ice axe, and we got spikes. I actually had crampons. I brought extra layers of clothes because I was like so worried. Like, we don't know, because you're on your own in there that time of year. Like, all the roads are closed. The rangers aren't there. Like, you have to be self-sufficient. So I probably overpacked. And so, I'm acclimated to 6,000 feet. I think I'm really cool. And then within 2 days, you're at 11, 12,000 feet. And so that 6,000 foot jump is, oh my God, I'm having trouble breathing. I didn't get altitude sickness. One of the girls in our training league did, and we had to get her out of there. She was able to walk on her own power, but we had to get her out of the mountains. It got real, like, pretty quick. And we hit Whitney and decided to do Whitney. Now we're at 14.5. And I'm like, oh my God, like, I was getting that little headache and the signs of altitude sickness. Big Marmot was with me, and he's a pretty experienced mountaineer. And he's like, if it's just a headache and a little tiny bit of nausea, you're probably okay. I'm like, okay, let's go. And so we just kept going, like, one pass a day, just fearing for our lives on a lot of them. And I was not like an experienced mountaineer, but it's like, you're looking at Forster, and you're looking at Glen Pass was really hard. Mather was the scariest one, but like, every day we're preparing for the next day, and it's like reading the comments on Far Out, like, how sketchy it is. They're like, oh my God, so nervous, man. And we just get up early, go crush it through the pass, celebrate, and try to get down off the snow before it got too soft. It was hard, and it wasn't really scenic. As a photographer, it wasn't like, it's hard to photograph when all the lakes are frozen. Like, all is just white. And so it was like, I couldn't really photograph. I was picturing the Sierras being not like that. And so I felt a little, damn, I wonder if this was a smart decision. But we made it, man. We got through. It took us, to get to South Lake Tahoe, it took almost a month.
Yeah, if you go in April, you're going to see a lot of white out there.
Yeah, I know. But it worked out. The long story is, it was the right decision, because those that were a month behind us, their hikes were completely upended. A lot of them quit, went home. A lot of them were because I live in a trail town, and I talked to a lot of them that got disrupted by those fires, and they were not happy. Some of them were like, the PCT is just a nightmare. Like, they were so upset and so just thrown into, I don't know how you describe it, but just listening to them talk, we were so lucky. We were so lucky, man. We just threaded this needle of near perfection. The Sierras was hard, but the PCT is like 5 sections, essentially: the desert, the Sierra, Northern Cal, Oregon, and Washington. Mm-hmm. We suffered through the Sierras, but the desert was beautiful. It was wildflowers, and it wasn't hot, and it wasn't super windy. Northern Cal was like, no fires, no smoke, wildflower blooms the whole way. Oregon was buggy, but green and wildflowers the whole way. Washington was just unbelievable. We didn't get any rain. wildflower peak bloom. It was so beautiful. Every other section was just so perfect. And all the fires everyone was freaking out about were just way in our rearview mirror. So it was like, we were living the dreams. It was worth the Sierras. It was worth that for the rest of the trail.
Yeah, I don't know what the new normal is going to be, but if this year's any indication, it seems to me that the PCT is becoming more and more difficult to hike the complete thing, because this year we obviously had Snowmageddon, right? And there's so much snow in the Sierras. I'm not sure you could enter in April and get through the Sierras with how much snow we had. And if you're forced to wait for that July entry date to get into the Sierras, then you're looking at really a dry season towards the end of your hike where things are like almost guaranteed to be on fire.
Yeah, man. I think this year was a really good southbound year. Like they were doing a northbound. Okay, so I've been hosting. So I'm also a trail angel, and we've been hosting people at our house. I've been doing trail magic on the trail, and I've only met 2 people that have like northbounders that have gone continuously through the Sierras. 2 out of hundreds, 2 or 3 out of hundreds is people that say that they have went through the Sierras and everything. So everybody either went home or they flipped up and did some form of a flip flop hike, pretty much. So the northbound thing was like never going to happen this year, really. Southbounders are probably going to fare better. It's a really good southbound year. But yeah, I guess my point is, I don't know. I think this was an anomaly of a year. But I think what's happening with the PCT is that northbounders are going to have to start earlier and earlier, because the trend's only going to get hotter with more fires, less snow in the Sierras, less snow in Southern Cal. Well, I think, this is my opinion, it's not an official thing, but I think that you're going to start seeing February permits getting issued in the next decade.
Really?
Yeah, I do.
That's very early.
It is, man. But I started March 16, and every 4 of the 5 sections were perfectly ideal, and I didn't have to deal with the fires or anything.
Yeah.
Had I been 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, I would have gotten really screwed. And the fire season, they're saying, this is just like average trends, is only going to come earlier. It's only going to be longer. It's only going to be more devastating. The snowpack in these Sierras is supposed to get less and less. I just saw a podcast that said the Oregon Cascades are expected to not have a snowpack by 2070. They'll just be flurries, and it will snow and then melt, but there basically won't be a snowpack in less than 50 years. So you gotta, at some point, maybe we'll be dead, but you'll be able to through like that thing in winter probably at some point. So my point is, the trend is going to get earlier and earlier, and people that are starting later and later, unless you're trying to do a fastest known time, you're really not, like a northbound hike's probably not going to happen unless you skip major chunks because of fire.
That's a sad commentary.
Sorry, man.
Yeah.
Well, it's reality. Like,
yeah. Now, this was 10 years in the making from your journey getting to be on the PCT as a thru hike. 10 years in the making. You talked about that earlier.
Yeah.
So I want to hear about what was going through your mind as you were approaching the end of the PCT and the finish was in sight. What's going through your head?
With it, when I was about 5 days out, like it started to get pretty real, and I definitely got like tunnel vision as far as I wasn't focused on anything except finishing. Like I started to ignore everything that was in my mind about how tired I was or how hungry I was, or all those things were just like being drowned out. And I was like, I got to finish. And I started getting this like panicky feeling a little bit, like, what if something happens and I don't get to finish and I'm still a section hiker? Because that was my whole thing, as I wanted to be a thru hiker, like this once, or this, at least this once in my life. I wanted to be a thru hiker. I was already a section hiker. So now I'm like, I quit my job. I walked away from everything to be a thru hiker. And what if something happens and I'm still a section hiker? So I started to panic. I'm like, we got to get there. We got to get to that terminus. And so I had this like intense focus on just go. So that was my mindset leading up to it.
And when you got to the finish, was there some kind of relief or overwhelming emotion?
Yeah, a little overwhelming as far as I had 5 months to think about what it would be like. And then it's just not what I thought. I was like, I'm either going to just cry or I'm going to have no emotion, because it's sometimes moments can be bigger than the person. So I'm like, this moment may be bigger than I am. Like, it may be so overwhelming I don't feel anything in the moment. But I did feel a lot. And I remember I didn't really cry till like a little bit later, because I texted my wife and I said, I'm a thru hiker, and that was emotional. Still is emotional.
I can see it.
So
I can see it. That's awesome.
Yeah. So that made me cry. And then I finally broke loose. I'm like, all right. And then I had a whole bottle of whiskey too at the terminus. I carried it in from like Stehekin. We started drinking on trail this peanut butter whiskey called, has a sheep on the logo, Screwball, and started really liking it. Like, we got it in the desert. Someone gave it to us for Trail Magic. And I'm like, that's my new drink. So I was carrying Screwball whenever I could find it on the trail. So at the terminus, I'm like, yeah, we got to bring Screwball. I filled a smart water bottle with almost a liter of the stuff. Just in the excitement, I like drank the whole liter, and I was super hammered. And but I didn't really realize how hammered I was until I tried to walk till we had to leave, because we have to walk back. At the time, you have to walk back to whatever whatever pass that was back there, Hearts Pass. You had to walk back. So I'm like, all right, let's go. I tried to walk and I could barely walk, and I had to use my trekking poles for a different reason, to hold myself up.
Now,
But yeah.
go ahead.
So and I was teary the whole rest of the day.
If you're listening to this instead of watching it on YouTube, I hate to put you on the spot here, Magnet, but it was a really cool moment as you were talking about texting your wife that you're a thru hiker. It was my perfect opportunity to say, hey, I'm not crying, you're crying, kind of thing. I think we're both tearing up as you're going through reliving those emotions. That was really a great moment.
Yeah, man. I think telling her that was like powerful, because I know I put her through to do it. So she's the real hero. So that was why it was so powerful. I know what I put her through to do that. So to tell her that I did it, I didn't leave just to quit or to get stuck. I actually did what I set out to do. So that was cool.
Yeah. And I think the emotions are bottled up until, and I've had this experience, until you call your significant other, the terminus or from the top of Whitney after so many days, and you say, hey, I'm here, and you can barely choke the words out. You texted and you got emotional. I was talking on the phone because we had cell reception, and I thought it was fine, and you get all choked up.
Yeah, it comes out of nowhere. I saw people finish that didn't show any emotion at all, and that was like weird to me. So maybe it'll hit them later, but everyone reacts differently to it. I can say for sure that the whole experience, so people don't appreciate it fully until it's like a month after, because I stay in touch with all my trail family, and like there's a lot of them that were like, I just want to finish, I just want to go home. But now they're like, man, I wish I was back on trail. So there's something that once you get home and you get healed up and you get all the food and sleep you need, now you start to remember just the good parts and and then what it meant to you. Because then when you get home and a lot of people go back to work and they're sitting in a cubicle or whatever, oh my God, we were living the dream out there. And now I'm just stuck back in this life that I didn't like originally. That's why I went on the trail. And so and then people start reminiscing, remember this one night that we all did this or whatever. And I don't know, like people start to really realize like how awesome that was. That's what I learned what type 2 fun is. You don't appreciate it until after.
It's perspective, right? When you're out there on the trail, it puts your normal civilized life in perspective. And then when you get off the trail and you're back in your cubicle, that puts perspective on what you just accomplished. It's such a great juxtaposition to be able to really see what's going on there.
Yeah, man. Speaking of juxtapositions, like I definitely changed my philosophy on just life in general. That trail definitely did that. And I think it's a common thing, but it definitely changed, me a lot. Even though I'm saying like this year, it's like I didn't want to do another thru hike because I don't know if I'm going to do another major thru hike in my life. I'm not sure. I'm like 50-50. But I can say that it was good for me. It changed my whole perspective on materialism and basically the way we live as Americans or in like Western culture. I know it sounds like hippie, but man, it really changed me because I was so happy. I was so happy living that life with like almost nothing. This violates anything I ever learned, anything my parents ever told me. It's like if you don't have money and things, you're not going to be happy and you're going to struggle. And then I go and I acquired money and things and had a good job, and I was discontent. And I go out on the trail and walk away from everything. And all I got was what's in my back. And I'm twice as happy as I was when I had supposedly everything. That shatters your worldview. That shatters everything you've ever been told. It's like I have almost nothing, and I'm so happy with almost nothing. So then how do you go back? How do you go back to that How do you go back to thinking that, oh, I need to buy a new truck. That's what I need. It's not. That's not what you need. That buying something or material things are not gonna make you happy. So then how do you look at me? I don't have a real job anymore. It's because I don't care. I don't care about that anymore. What am I gonna do? What am I gonna do with the money of a really good job? Buy toys that I don't need, that aren't gonna do anything except bog me now. So it's beautiful, but it ruins your life through anything.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to Magnet's TED Talk. That was awesome. That was awesome. That was great, man. All right. Now, you left the PCT and you planned on doing the Arizona Trail the following year. How did that go?
Let me keep pause it for a second. My dog's barking. I'm sorry.
I can pause.
Stop.
All right, Arizona Trail.
Yeah.
So you plan on doing that? How did it go?
I never planned to do that. So I got pretty bad post-trail depression in the winter. And I was like, I just missed the trail so bad. And one of my trail family members was like, I'm going to do the Arizona Trail next year. I'm like, boom, I'm in. I'm going. I'll go anywhere any one of you guys says to go. I will be there. So that's how I decided to do the Arizona Trail. I never chose it. It chose me. But then that person ended up backing out. But by then I was like, I'd already researched it. I knew all the logistics. I had it all planned. So I'm like, I'm still going to go. I guess I missed the trail, not necessarily any one person. So I'm going to go and do this. But I knew, just like in Southern Cal and the Sierras, I knew it was a high snow year. So Arizona, they didn't get a lot of publicity for it, but they had the most snow and rain they'd had in 40 years too, because all the storms go from west to east. So they went right over there too. So they had tons of snow. And so I knew it was going to be interesting, an unusual year. We had cool weather. I'm all ready for all this heat. I got sun hoodies. I bought a sun umbrella. I was ready to do battle with that heat down there. And we got none. It was never hot. The hottest temperature that I felt at any point was 80 degrees. And most days were 65 to 75. It was beautiful. And there was water everywhere. I'm looking at the far out guide and there's water symbols almost never on this trail. There's water everywhere. I'm walking in water and there's water every half mile or mile, there's water. I didn't have to even think about it, which is really unusual there. But we had this looming issue. So the northern part of the state is at 9,000 feet. You get up on the Mogollon Rim, they call it. And that's where the Grand Canyon is. But you're at 9,000 feet. So everyone's saying, yeah, there's 10 feet of snow up there. And I'm like, oh, it's Arizona. It'll melt. But it never did. The heat I was expecting to melt the snow never came. It stayed cool and rainy and snowy and stuff. So it's not melting, guys. I remember starting to tell people hey, so what are we going to do? This is getting real. There's no heat waves. Nothing's going to bail us out. There's 10 feet of snow up there. The north end or the north side of the Grand Canyon had 15 feet of snow, the most they've had in 40 years. So I'm like, so what are we going to do? Most people are like, oh, I'm getting off. I'm not going to deal with this. I'm like, I'm 50-50. I didn't come down here. I came down here because I was missing the trail. I didn't come down here to lay it out on the trail for this trail that I don't even really, this was never on my bucket list or anything. So I'm only going to suffer to a point on this trail, was my opinion. But there's people that we're going. And so I split the difference. We took an alternate, got to Flagstaff. I took an alternate that was lower elevation and went through Sedona to try to avoid some of the snow. Got to Flagstaff. And then we received word that they bailed us out. They actually closed the trail in front of us. So they closed the trail on the North Kaibab part, which goes out of the north entrance or the north rim of the Grand Canyon. They officially closed it, and they were very stern about it because they were going to have to, it was a landslide. So they were going to have to dig it up and relay it because it's also the water supply for the North Rim Lodge up there. So they needed to redo the water pipe and all the stuff before the lodge could open. So they're we're gutting this whole thing, so you can't come up here. So in a way, I was like, thank you. Because I was looking for an out. Somebody should, I need a comment to strike or something. I didn't really want to do it. So it's all right, perfect. That was my out. So we got to Flagstaff. And then the last thing I did was I took a bus up to the Grand Canyon. I just did the overnighter in the canyon on the south rim, came back out the south rim. And everyone in my trail family said our goodbyes. And we went home. So now I have to go back. So I go back in October to finish.
Okay. So you split it up. You did the first part. When did you leave for Arizona Trail?
I started on March 8th,
Okay.
8th or 9th.
And
Yeah,
how many miles do you have left?
200.
Okay.
I'll
So
bust that out.
bust that out in what, 3 days?
2.5 with my new ultralight pack. Yeah, we won't have trail legs entirely at that point, but yeah, I think in 10 days we'll do it.
Yeah. Did you hear about Garmire's FKT of the John Muir Trail?
No.
So 211 miles. He did it in 3 days, less than 3 days. That's 70-mile days.
Yeah, that's insane. So is he an ultra marathoner kind of guy?
He is quite a character. He's an endurance athlete. He has the FKT for the Colorado Trail, a number of other FKT.
Okay, yeah.
He's just a quirky, funny guy. He's been on, he's co-hosted a couple of times. He's just a real fun guy to talk to.
My friend Punisher, who I met on the Arizona Trail, and his trail name is for a reason. Like, he's a beast to keep up with. Such a good guy. He ended up doing that Tahoe 200 this year, and when I did the Tahoe Rim Trail, he was there in Tahoe training for that. So he would just run out and meet me. He was just running all over the Tahoe Rim Trail. He could just be anywhere, any given day or any time, because he was just. And he did that. He got second place, man, in
Wow.
200. Second place male, third overall.
That's impressive.
And he had never done anything like that. Dude's just a crazy beast. But yeah, in fact, I will say, when I told you I'm trying to get lighter, he's my inspiration, actually, because he's like just ridiculously strong, and he carries this tiny little pack. So like, I hiked with him on the Tahoe Rim Trail, and I'm like, dude, like, if he can do it, I can do it. I'm not the 200. I just mean, if he can carry what looks like a day pack to most people, I can do that too, man. So he's inspired me to take the next leap.
I love finding inspiration in others. And I hope that people listen to different episodes on this podcast and get inspired. I love hearing that you're inspired by Punisher. All it takes is seeing somebody else or listening to somebody else who's done something pretty incredible. And you're like, I want to be like that. I want to try and get closer to that.
Yeah, exactly, man. If he can do it and make it work, I know I can do it too. And so, yeah, it's inspiration.
Yep.
I'm not that I can do the Tahoe 200, but it made me want to be better, like just stronger, faster, lighter. I don't know. Yeah, inspiration.
Now, we talked about Tahoe Rim Trail a little bit. I want to skip over to the Wonderland Trail.
Yeah.
And that is the trail that circumnavigates Mount Rainier.
Yeah, that's right.
That's right. And how long is that trail?
93 miles, somewhere in there.
Okay. And have you read the book by Christine Reed, Alone in Wonderland?
No, I heard of it, but I have not read it.
Yeah, it's a really good read. She did a really good job. It's interesting hearing it from her perspective and the kinds of issues she was dealing with and what she learned from the whole thing. So what did you learn from the Wonderland Trail?
I guess that's a fun question, man. I learned that if you show up somewhere and you're nice to the rangers, that they'll work with you and help you get permits. And if you're a jerk, which I wasn't, but if that's a trail that's notoriously hard to get permits for. I tried for the early lottery and got denied. I've talked to people that have tried for years to get the early permit lottery and been denied for years and years. And what do? I just showed up there on a Wednesday, and everything I read was like, if you want to try to get a walk-up permit, you need to get there first thing before they open, be the first one in line. And I showed up at almost closing time, like 4:30. And I'm like, hey, so I'm going to try to get a permit tomorrow morning. He's like, hey, I can probably get you permits right now. I'm like, really? And I wasn't ready. I didn't know anything. I was like, he's like, where do you want the permits? I'm like, I really don't know, man. And he has a map on his desk. And I'm like, I'm pointing at camps. Like, how about this one? Is this one cool? He's like, yeah, I can get you that one. All right, then how about this one over here? That's a big day. Oh, okay. How about this one? Okay. And I was just pointing at camps because I did not think they were going to give me permits, and he gave me all the permits I asked for. And I took off with just my 5 days of food. And what did I learn?
Hang on. Before you get to that, two very important points you just discussed right there. One is that you can't just camp wherever you want on the Wonderland Trail. You have to book it campsite by campsite, right?
It's super regulated as a national park.
Super regulated.
Yeah. So there's pros and cons to it being a national park. Pro is the trail's super well maintained. It's funded. It's patrolled. It's got resources. It's got amenities. The camps have amenities like bear pools and pit toilets. And the con is like you can't just show up. Yeah, you can't camp wherever you want. Your permit's for a specific camp. and you have to be there. So me, in my ignorance, I'm pointing at camps without checking the mileage, right? Some of those camps, like one of them was like 28 miles between the two camps. I had to do it. I freaking had to do it. And so I don't know what I learned. I learned the mountaineers.
Hang on, I didn't point out the.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right. That's all right. So that's an important thing to realize about the Wonderland Trail is that it's highly structured, and you have to camp in certain campsites that you book ahead of time. It's like you said, you can't just show up. I think the other important thing, and you mentioned it briefly as you went into this, is that there's different ways to approach people. You can come in all hot and bothered and be upset and be a jerk, and you're going to get treated one way. And if you come in and you're nice and you're inquisitive and you're friendly, you're going to get another response. And I think
they have strings they can pull, but they will not pull it if you're a jerk.
No, why would they?
Yeah, exactly. But there was another range. Okay, so my itinerary was messed up, right? Because I didn't know what I was doing. So when I got to the next wilderness permit office that I came to, I'm like, hey, man, so I got these permits and it's great, but I'm dying. This trail is way harder than I thought, and I'm really pushing. Can you help me like change these last two camps so I can like have a life and actually rest and stuff? And he was really cool. Like he really tried. He helped me fix my stove too. That was the guy that gave me like all these tools. He's tried to help me fix my stove. And then he's like, yeah, so I can't get you this camp or I can't get you that camp. And I checked at the end of the day right before they closed. I'm like, hey, did anybody cancel? And he was like, he's on the radio trying to figure out if he could do anything for me. Like he really laid it out there. And I was like, damn, I guess these guys, it pays to be nice to him. This whole trip worked out because the Rangers really, so.
Yeah, your stove broke. Did you become an accidental cold soaker?
Yes, sir. So twice this year, I've had actually 3 times this year. I've had a stove issue. One is just stupid. I just didn't have I lost my lighter. I couldn't ignite my stove. So I'm like, all right, I got to learn how to cold soak on the fly here. I know there's YouTube channels devoted to it, but I had no reception. So I got to figure out how to cold soak everything, from my coffee to my mac and cheese to my everything. And then it happened again on the Wonderland. My stove just stopped. The gas just wouldn't flow for no apparent reason. I thought I fixed it, but then on the Timberline Trail, that's the Mount Hood one, beautiful trail as well, the stove failed on me again. And so 3 times, man, I've had to learn how to cold soak. Just whatever I got, I just figure out how to cold soak. So I've had mac and cheese for breakfast. I had to cold soak my mac and cheese overnight and eat it in the morning instead of eating it in the night, where I have my breakfast at night to switch that up. I learned a lot. Like I learned that you don't need to heat coffee anymore, which is cool. I always thought it wouldn't dissolve. Like instant coffee wouldn't dissolve in cold water. It does. It's fine. Couscous hydrates in 30 minutes. Rice hydrates in 30, 40 minutes. I really made some progress. Like I learned a lot. I'm not saying I like it. I actually don't really like it, but I can do it. So it's like another skill. I got another wilderness skill now.
Another tool in your toolbox. Yeah,
another tool in my toolbox for when inevitably I need it again. But like I know I thought you were going to ask me that in the hiker poll, but because you usually ask people, but I was going to say my official answer was still going to be stove, because I did not enjoy cold soak. I did it, but it's just something about air temperature food is slightly dehumanizing.
Yes, you have not lost any additional points. You're still at 43.
Okay, cool.
Yes, very good. Very good. Did the Wonderland Trail teach you anything else about yourself?
It's a good question. No, I nothing I could really think of. It definitely made me think I like national parks and I like all the amenities, but I don't know. For me, that was it was 5 days. I didn't think like a whole lot about much of anything, to be honest with you. So I guess for me, that's almost like a weekend trip. I'm bragging, but
some humble bragging right there.
Yeah, but it's a hard trail. The elevation change is really extreme. Maybe the most extreme that I've done ever. So
now, what is the next adventure for Magnet?
I got a few. Like I said, I have to finish the Arizona Trail. That's in October. My wife and I are going to do the West Highland Way in Scotland in September. September 12th, we leave. And that's 100 miles. That's more like glamp packing a little bit. I mean, that I'm really looking forward to it, but that's more like the Camino. There's distilleries and breweries and stuff like all along the way. There's like restaurants and hostels, and it's going to be like I'm looking forward to it immensely, but it's not a wildernessy It's a path, not a trail.
Yeah, Magnet, I am very envious. I want to do that. I want to do the West Highland Way. I want to experience the Camino as well.
I do too, man. Yeah, my wife and I. So I guess she quit the PCT, but this type of backpacking is right up her alley. Like she just didn't like the super remote, nothing to do except be in your own head all day, 12-hour day slogs, sleeping like crap. But this is different, man. We're talking like there's a distillery on the West Highland Way at mile 6. That's how quick we're going to be drinking. And we got a lot, half the nights we got like hotels we're staying in. There's restaurants the whole way. It's going to be chill, man. It's going to be like, but for me, I've never done anything like this. I've never had amenities. So I'm pretty excited to be able to hike, but also eat good and drink good and sleep good.
Yeah. Magnet, you had me at distillery.
Yep. Mile 6. I've got the Glengoyne distillery.
All right. Hey, Magnet, you know where we are right now?
Pro tip. What do you call it now? You're not going to get me on this, Doc. I know where we are.
You do know where we are.
I just don't know what you call it.
Hiking hacks.
Hiking hacks. Okay.
Hiking hacks. Yes, it's time for you to pull out of your pocket one of those six tidbits that you had saved up to share with our listeners to make their next outdoor experience even better. Which one are you going to pick?
Can I pick more than one? It's got to be one, or what do we got?
No, we'll take multiple.
Okay, because I got a tip or two for thru hikers and a tip or two for people that don't want to thru hike. But some of it we touched on. But okay, thru hiking, Pacific Crest Trail. I got some tips, just stuff that we learned, and for northbounders especially, that early start was so clutch for us. And I really think that if a person is willing to do a little bit of mountaineering through the Sierras and learn how to use an ice axe and just basics, like simple mountaineering skills, and that an early start, a March start on the northbound PCT is the way to go. It was so awesome. And you avoid the situation with those fires that is really becoming like a hike ending thing for half of all PCT hikers are probably getting kicked off trails from fire now. But if you really want to thru hike it and have it not suck that bad, yeah, an early start is key, but you do have to be prepared for some general mountaineering in parts of the Sierras. And that this year notwithstanding, this was an anomaly, but an average snow year I'm talking.
Got it. So that's one.
Yeah, that's one. The other thing that I learned about thru hiking is you have to have like very strong reasons for being out there. So much of what we on YouTube and on Instagram is it glamorizes it, but it really isn't glamorous on the day-to-day. It actually really sucks most of the time, but no one's prepared for that. No one is for the first time is really ready for that. So no matter what you think how you're going to respond, you're going to have times where you're really questioning why you're doing this. And this sucks way worse than you thought, or you're way lonelier than you thought. You miss your dog way more than you thought. You're more tired than you could have imagined. All that stuff's going to hit you. And you have to have a really strong reason in your mind. Like when you start to doubt yourself, what are you going to come back with? What are you going to say? No, I'm going to keep going. And these are the reasons why I'm out here. And these are the reasons why I'm going to keep going. And I'm not going to quit. You have to have strong reasons. I think people that just show up, I just want to like meet girls and stuff or whatever, just have a good time. Like they don't do well. They fall behind or quit, and then they get kicked off the trail from fire. And I don't know. I just think that you have to have a real fire in your belly, like a real purpose out there, because otherwise the trail will just eat you up.
That's got some layers to it right there, Magnet. I really appreciate that. There are enough things out there that are going to be pushing on you to get off the trail and things pulling you to get off the trail. What you left behind is going to be pulling you, but also there's a ton of suck out there that's going to be pushing you to say, why am I out here? And you're exactly right. If you don't have that strong reason for being out there, that is your immovable force within you that's going to keep you on the trail. If you don't have that, it is so much easier to convince yourself, why am I here? Why am I doing this? I'm getting off the trail.
Yeah. Look at me on the Arizona trail that we just talked about. I didn't really have that. I admittedly did not have much of a fire in my belly or reason for being there. And I didn't finish it. And you'd say, yeah, there was that trail closure, but the reality was I probably could have figured it out and pretty much finished it, but I didn't have the fire. But the PCT I did, man, there was nothing that was going to stop me. And that's the difference, really. You want to be successful, you have to have strong reasons for being there. And the PCT was an easy slam dunk for me. I quit my entire career to be out there. So that's always something you can look back on and say, I didn't walk away from my entire income to not finish this trail. I'm finishing this trail. I will freaking die out here. Like, that was my mentality, but not that's a healthy mentality, but that was my mentality. It's like, I'm finishing. I don't care. I am finishing. I don't care how bad this sucks. It could suck. Every day could be a nightmare. I'm finishing this trail. That's how motivated I was. But it's hard to bring that level for everything you do in life. There's a season anyway.
Yeah,
I don't want to get too deep.
No, that is a great place to finish our discussion. So there you have it. We are just about done here. Hope our listeners enjoyed our time with Magnet. I want to thank him for joining us this week. Magnet, how can our listeners keep up with you on social media, and where can they find updates on your latest adventures? You have 2 accounts, I understand.
Yeah, on Instagram I do. So it's extreme_Oregon is like my original photography account that's just the state of Oregon. And then I started another page that's everything else. So that's magnet.northbound. That's Instagram. And I also have a YouTube channel that I try to do good with, but that's also Magnet Northbound as well. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay. Now, when you do the next trail southbound, you can open up another account, Magnet Southbound.
Dude, yeah, that's why you're smart. Just rip the Band-Aid off and change the name, because now I'm walking this, like, doing this dance over here. Yeah, so I started Magnet Northbound because at the time I was section hiking the PCT Northbound, and so that was going to be the page for that. But now that's bloomed into all these other trails, and so now, I've already done the Tall Rim Trail counterclockwise, so Magnet counterclockwise, and then, dude, I don't know, but thankfully I'm going to change the name like you did. I'm not going to start another page that's Magnet Southbound.
Okay, nice way to learn from your mistakes.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, remember to check out the pod on social media as well. We're on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. And if you have comments or clips you want to share, you can send it to me at hikertrashradio@gmail.com.
Off the beaten path.
Magnet, unfortunately, we can't always be on the trail. And when we're not, we need to find a way to get our adventure fixed. So I'm going to ask you to share some outdoor adventure media with our listeners to help them get by in the off season. And this could be a book, a movie, documentary, or something else. We call this segment Off the Beaten Path. Any suggestions for adventure media?
Yeah, man, I do have a suggestion, but this really isn't directly adventure media, but it relates to it. I'll tie it in. It's actually a book by Mark Manson. It's a bestseller. Probably a lot of people have read it, but it's The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck is the name of the book. And how this relates to me is, like, I walked away from everything, except for my wife and dogs, everything in my life to go do this through hike. And I get home and my life is a mess. I had to face everything that I had done and thrown away. And that book really helped my post-trail depression and just my mental state. So many of us through hikers, so many of my friends now, they live in their buses and they live in their vans. They're homeless or living on their buddy's couch. And all of our lives, like Hiker Trash's lives, are not textbook, and all of our lives have just in a way fallen apart. And how do you, someone like me that's been raised to be a hard worker and do good things, how do you wrap your mind around what the amazing pile of garbage that you just turned your life into, and be okay with it and still be happy, and to understand that material things or success isn't what this life is about? And so, I don't know, I would just say that book, in my depths of post-trail depression, was a really nice, like, refreshing way to look at life. And so this isn't outdoor related directly, but it's about the thru hiker and the hiker trash mindset and how to cope with living your life like in an alternative way and not worrying about it, not feeling bad about that.
I am placing my order tonight for that book. I'd love to check that out. That's fantastic.
And that guy, the author, Mark Manson, is on Instagram. I'm sure you could search it, but he's just cool. He's just a really insightful person that helps with a lot of different subjects. Anyway.
Okay. Said, thank you, sir.
Yeah.
What have we not asked you?
And before we wrap things up tonight, just one more segment for you called What Have I Not Asked You That You're Dying to Tell Us About? What do we miss?
Let's see. Did you miss any of my hikes this year? I think we talked about all of them, man. No, the only thing I'd say, I touched on this, let's say real quick, is there's such pros and cons to being a thru hiker. Like on YouTube, it looks like it's so awesome, but there's just as many negatives as positives. And so I'm stuck in that. Is it worth the cost sort of phase? So I'm not stopping backpacking and I'm not going to stop exploring, but there's there's a part of me that's I'm 50-50 whether I'll ever do like the full CDT through hike or even the AT at all. I don't know. That's just a little insight into me. But you asked me everything that's basically relevant. I'm sure in a year or two when you interview me again, hopefully I'll have a lot more to say about life, the hiker trash life, and really, was it really worth it?
I was just going to say, you beat me to it. You are truly a student of the game, whether that's the thru hiking game or the game of life. You are really reflective, thoughtful, analytical. And so I definitely need to have you come back at a later point so you can share with all of us, so we can learn from you what else you have gleaned from your experience.
Yeah, man, there will be a lot. It's every year's a new year, and I'm always learning, and I'm always changing, and I'm always reevaluating. So yeah, we'll have plenty more to like trails to talk about, adventures to talk about, mishaps to talk about, and things I've learned.
Okay, that's why we're doing this. All right, we are finished. I want to thank you for coming on the podcast, Magnet. It was a real pleasure talking to you again. Thanks for your continued support of Hiker Trash Radio. I really appreciate it. I love the fact that you're out there putting in the miles and listening to me talk to some of my guests out there. So that's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, man, it's comforting now that like your pod is like just the trail to me. So I really enjoy I don't care what you guys talk about anymore, to be honest with you. I just like hearing it. I just like hearing it. So it's like comforting. It's like comfort food, but it's for the ears.
Yeah. Sometimes we take turns off of exactly talking about trail. We talk about other stuff, but I think everybody's got a story, and I think that's very interesting.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
All right. Any shout outs to friends and family tonight as we close up?
Yeah. My wife for putting up with my hiking habit, my hiking addiction, and supporting me. And then, my Arizona Trail people that I'm going to see again soon, but Punisher, and we actually had a trail family of 5 of us. So Punisher, Softser, Sheep, and Skip. They're all awesome people, and super proud of Punisher for his Tahoe 200 second place. And hopefully we can all get back after it soon.
Sounds like I might need to have Punisher come on the podcast.
Man, that guy's resume is unbelievable. The only thing with him is he's pretty shy about, I don't know, his wealth of knowledge is just unfreaking real. He's a Triple Crowner and then some. He's done all of it in the last 4 years. He hiked for a continuous calendar year at one time. He did the Florida Trail, the Pinhoti Trail, the AT, and the CDT. So he's almost a calendar year Triple Crowner, but he just didn't do it on the 3 main trails. But yeah, he's an amazing dude.
Yeah, I'll have to reach out. I'll drop your name.
Yeah, drop your name. Say that I told him. Yeah, I told you need to talk to that dude. If he would be willing to do it, it'd be awesome. But I'll give you his contact. So.
Okay. Fantastic. Thank you for tuning in. Always remember, the trail is the trail. It doesn't care if you want to go downhill. It doesn't care if it's almost dark and you're looking for a campsite. It doesn't even care if you've just realized that you don't have to continue the rat race and purchase all the toys to achieve true happiness. The trail is the trail. Embrace the suck.